Hello, Keith.
Hello, Tony.
What's going on, man? How are you?
Man, I had a hard workout today.
You did
It yeah, I did deadlifts and hang cleans,
deadlifts and hang
and
cleans. Nice. Good
yeah,
combination.
I didn't go too heavy. Yeah, I didn't go too heavy on either, but I went kind of intense, and yeah, I'm feeling it just a little, but it's that good hurt.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, and let me I digress. Yesterday at work, I lifted a heavy board and pulled something in my. I didn't pull something, but just a small strain in my back. Felt it this morning when I got up. So
How
what did
bad?
I go and do today?
Let me guess. You laid on the couch with a heating pad all day.
And the remote control and a big bag of chips and a Coke.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew that's where you were going. I knew that's what you would do because that's how you roll.
Absolutely. And
So
then
okay, so
before the
you had this pain in your back and you lay on the couch all day and you drink soda and eat ice cream. How do you feel?
No, I drank soda and ate chips. Come
Oh,
on,
eat
get
chips.
it right. Salty, greasy chips.
So now what did you really do? Well, we already kind of know because you said you went and deadlifted and did hang cleans.
Yeah, and first I rolled myself out for about, I don't know, 8 or 10 minutes. I got the foam roller and rolled around, and then I said, not quite good enough. So I got my lacrosse ball and actually, you know how it works, found the spot where it hurts and made it hurt worse.
Dude, the lacrosse ball is like a surgical instrument for finding those spots. So if
Oh
anybody
my
listening to this has
goodness.
never used a lacrosse ball and just a foam roller, you got to get the lacrosse ball because it's like
Uh,
it's
yeah,
precision.
it's surgical.
Yeah, it's like using a scalpel to get to
Yeah, it will
right in the
find the
spot.
spot and it will make it hurt so much worse that when you do get up, your pain is gone.
It's
Yeah,
amazing, right?
it
It's amazing.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it, believe me, I wouldn't do it if it didn't work. And
Yeah.
I know it
Yeah.
works.
And that's
So I
actually,
did it for, yeah, I did it
and then
today.
did it completely go away after the massage? Because that's really it's a form of self massage, right?
Yeah. And did it completely go away? No. And I didn't expect it to completely go away with one, 5, 6 minute exposure or rolling around. I'd probably have to do it. I'm going to do it again before I go to bed, and
How
then
much
I'm going to do it
how much better
again.
did it get when you did the foam when you did the rolling? Like if you were at a did it get 50% better? Did it get 70% better? Just roughly.
I would say I was in my pain level, let's say, was an 8. It wasn't killing me, but it was hurting. I rolled around, let's say, the foam roller for about 2 or 3 minutes, then the lacrosse ball for maybe 5 or 6 minutes. And when I stood up from the lacrosse ball, my 8 level of pain was probably down to a 2.
Wow.
And yeah, it all but went away. And that lasted for sure the duration of I timed my workout today. It was 55 minutes and 16 seconds. I went slow.
Did you have any pain in
For
the
sure
workout?
it lasted no, that's what I was going to say. It lasted definitely the duration of my workout and beyond, probably 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. And then the pain, like right now, my pain level's probably a 6. It's way not as bad as it was.
Yeah.
And as I said, I'm gonna roll myself out again tonight before I go to hot shower, and then roll myself for maybe 5 minutes. And hopefully I won't have any pain tomorrow. And if so, I'll just roll it out again.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
works.
You got the right tools for the job.
Yeah. And then I didn't lift real heavy. I started my deadlift ladder at 175, and I only went to 225. I didn't go very heavy. And
Yeah.
I did 8. I did 8 of each ladder step up. I didn't go heavy and I didn't do a lot of reps.
Nice.
I
Nice.
didn't want to kill myself, and I'm working towards my 300-pound pull. So I'm kind of, you know how it goes. You know,
Yeah,
you
and if
go
something's a
real
little bit
heavy and then
off,
you
I
back
think
off a little.
it's good to be a little bit conservative in your lifting, but it's also at the
Yeah.
same time really good to actually go out and move. I mean, depending on what the injury is, you know, if you tear an ACL, then you probably shouldn't go and lift. But if it's just a muscle,
No.
dysfunctional muscle, which comes up every once in a while, it's actually really, really common. Then it's amazing what a little bit of massage and some movement will do if you've got a muscle that's just a little bit aggravated.
Yeah, and I knew it when I did it.
Yeah.
I lifted a piece of a board of 3/4 inch plywood, and when I picked it up, I said, "Oh man!" And it, you know, it was like tweak, like man,
Come
and
on.
it didn't hurt, but I could tell I pulled it. And then, you know, later last night, it was like, oh well, here we go.
Yeah.
But it wasn't gonna kill me. It wasn't a tear. It was like a small strain that
Yeah.
absolutely 100% would not hinder me at all from doing anything, but it was more annoyance than anything.
So you could still do
Yeah.
everything. You could still lean over, pick stuff up, and not have to go into
Oh yeah.
spasm, and you were fine.
Oh no,
Yeah.
nothing even close to that.
Awesome.
Man,
I think it might be
I don't.
beneficial for people to know kind of what happens, because I think the big question is like, why does this happen to me? You know, what is going on here? Because these things, like, how often do you have some of these little tweaks?
Not very, because
That's good.
first, not well. This is going to sound a little arrogant, but it's not. It's just the way it is. First, I'm pretty strong, and because I'm strong, I kind of know how to pick up heavy shit, and I don't do anything that's stupid or, you know, I most of it is without thought. Um, it's like muscle memory. And the other part is, okay, this is heavy. I need to pick this up correctly so I won't hurt myself.
Yeah.
And between those two, I rarely pull a muscle anywhere. But yesterday it was cold, it was rainy. I was working outside all day in the cold, in the rain. And it was the end of the day. I was cleaning up and I wanted to load all the crap in my truck and drive away.
Yeah.
And of course, the very last thing I pick up, I
And
tweak my back.
yeah. Well, the good news
It's
is
okay.
you managed it really well. And sometimes when a muscle gets aggravated, like if you think of a muscle, there's a bunch of different strands of those muscles, right? And the nerves innervate all of those different strands of some sort of the muscle tissue, right? So you've got like a nerve, and then at the end of the nerve is like a bunch of fingers, and then those fingers attach into the muscle, and that nerve will send a signal, of course, through that, you know, through those fingers to turn on that section of muscle. And now imagine there's a whole bunch of those nerves with a whole bunch of fingers at the end connecting to all the different area of that one muscle. So there might be like 100 nerves and 1,000 fingers branching off of those 100 nerves. So it's possible to just aggravate one little section of that muscle. And that's why when you roll around, it might hurt just in that one spot of that muscle. Because if that nerve is sending a bunch of ones to that section, to those fingers, that part of the muscle kind of like turns on, right? And it's like contracted. And everything else around it is working normally, but there's that one spot that's just fired up. And there's a couple of different ways, a couple of different really good ways to shut that nervous system off, because we want that section of the muscle to relax. One of them is, as you know,
rolling
massage.
Massage. Yeah.
Yeah. Massage is a great way to get those muscles to relax. So if you have any of those little tweaks, for anybody listening, massage is awesome. It's a way to get those areas to just start to shut off again, to reset the nervous system a little bit. And then the other thing is to create some movement. So you want to shut it off and then practice beautiful movement. And in your case, you went out and you actually deadlifted. So you retrained, or you got that nervous system to start running normally again, to start sending ones and zeros appropriately to coordinate that muscle again. Right. And every once in a while, it'll kind of lock down again. So you have to massage it, and it can be a little bit of a process, but it usually doesn't take long for those little tweaks to get better.
And that's almost exactly right. This this, not even in a perfect world, this will probably be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if not, then it'll be gone in a day or so, and I'll never know it was there. And my life will, the little teeny bump in the road will be forgotten almost immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you ever get a
Yeah,
tiny
and
little
then
tweak, massage, and if it gets a
yeah,
lot better in
and
massage, it's
then
a
of
good sign.
course, yeah, and then of course I did some stretching. You know, I had to stretch my muscles to you know, regain some flexibility
Yeah,
that
and that's what I want to talk
the
about
tight
today. I want
muscle.
to dig into this because there's so many misconceptions around flexibility. But like every
Well,
guy over the age of 40 is like, yeah, one of the things like my hips are really tight, or like my hip flexors are tight, like, or my hamstrings are really tight. But nobody even kind of knows what that really means. Like, you know, somebody will say like, yeah, my hamstrings are really tight. And I'm like, how do you know? Well, I can't bend over and touch my toes. And I'm like, what if you bend your knees? And they're like, well, you're not supposed to bend your knees. And I'm like, why are you not supposed to bend your knees? When you pick stuff up from the floor, do you bend your knees or do you keep your legs straight? So we have to really come up with,
yeah.
you know, I can tell you you're inflexible because you can't do the splits.
Oh, well, no, I can tell you now. I can't do the splits.
Neither can I, but does that mean you're inflexible?
No, that just means you can't do the splits.
Exactly. Yeah. So what does it mean to be flexible?
To be flexible is probably to be close to, if not all the way there, your full range of motion in every body part that needs to be in motion at any given moment.
Yeah. And
Something like that.
that's beautiful. And how do we determine what full range of motion is?
Well,
And
I
I'm
guess it
sorry,
would
I'm kind of
be like,
challenging you here. I'm putting you on the spot. I've thought about this for like years and years and years. So I'm kind of throwing you on the spot, but
well, you thought about it for years and years and years, and I'm thinking about it for seconds and seconds and seconds. I would think the full range of motion on any given body part is to be able to move that body part either until it won't move anymore, or until it starts to hurt in any given direction.
yeah. So how do we determine normal?
There is no normal. Normal is, if there is, I mean, everybody is so, the human, the human, we as humans are so different. We're so much alike, but we're so uniquely different than the person standing next to me. You know, I can move my arm this far, they can move their arm, you know, 5 inches further. Which one of us is normal?
Yeah. So yeah, no, and you're right. And the way that I define normal is we want to look at the basic fundamental movement patterns that every human needs to be able to do in their life. And what are the basic fundamental movement patterns? Just generally
Walking, sitting, standing up, laying down, you
squatting,
know,
reaching
squatting,
overhead, yeah,
yeah, reaching overhead, lunging, maybe forward,
deadlifting,
backwards,
picking something up from the floor.
rotating left or right, picking yourself up off the floor. Simple things that are ridiculously unique to everybody.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily that unique. Like if we look at someone squat, we can say like, and let's say they can only squat down a quarter of the way. You know, they can squat down to, you know, where their hips are way higher than their knees. And if they were to squat any lower, they'd come up on their toes and their back would round. Would that be a sign of abnormal range of motion?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
but that could be a sign of a whole lot of contributing factors. You know,
100%.
tight knees, tight hamstrings, tight hips, you know, tight ankles. There's a host of things that can play into how deep your squat is. It's not
Yeah.
any one thing. It's more like a few things.
Yeah. But we could safely say that they probably they're not flexible because they're not able to squat all the way down, right? I would say a normal range of motion for a human in a squat is going to be where your hip gets to at least as high as your knee, right? Like every human's kind of
Yes,
designed.
where your thighs are parallel to the floor. Yes.
Yeah, somewhere kind of in that range, right? And then there's some people that
Yes.
can go like ass to grass, like they go all the way down into the squat, especially women, like they can just squat all the way down. It's not necessarily quote unquote, maybe not normal. It's not necessarily abnormal either, because there are some of course differences in humans, but I would say, what is normal? What are the minimum requirements for us to live a life where we can do just about anything that we want? Do we need ass to grass? We don't need that.
No.
Sometimes it's nice to have, especially if you're a gymnast, right? But as a guy over the age of 40, we're not chasing gymnastics. We just want to be able to squat down, get on the floor, get back up, right? And be relatively unrestricted. We want to be able to lean over, pick stuff up, push stuff over our heads, right? Maybe do a pull up, we got to express full open shoulder. There are basic fundamental things positions that we all need to get into. And if we can get into those positions, we could safely say that you have a normal range of motion in a joint or joints.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Did that make sense?
Normal is the ability to move functionally without much restrictions or restraints.
Yeah, to be able to play in the sport of life, because as guys over the age of 40, that's what we're playing now, right? We're not, I mean, there might be a few guys out there that are trying to be gymnasts, maybe, in which case you have to go to, doing the splits. But for most of us, that's not what we're looking for,
No, I have no aspirations of doing the splits.
Yeah.
None.
So if I want to test somebody's flexibility, if somebody comes to me and they're like, my hamstrings are really tight, I'm like, okay, let's try a few things. So if you don't mind, show me your air squat, and I might demonstrate it for them. Okay, here's what I'm going to look for. I just keep your feet flat, squat down as low as you can, try to keep your back flat, and let's see how low can you go. And they might go to, they likely won't get their hips down in line with their knees. They'll likely get like a three-quarter squat, right? It's pretty typical, right? Unless they really know how to squat well. So I'm like, okay, obviously there's something going on here. There's some sort of flexibility issue, mobility issue. We're missing some range of motion. And like you said, it's a little bit more complex than just, is it just the hamstrings? Is it just the hip flexors? Is it the quadriceps? We don't really know, right? We just know that you can't squat all the way down. Something's going on there. And I find, so then what is, if we see that, what do most fitness professionals, physical therapists, massage therapists, what do most experts do right away when they see that? What is the first prescription?
Probably doing some where you stand and you hold your foot behind, close, you bend your knee up to your butt and
stretches.
Stretches. Yeah. But
keep it simple.
A lot of the people, and it's funny, I watch some people do that stretch, and what they do is they lean over with it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which pretty much negates the stretch. It's like, why you even bother?
Yeah. Well,
what's the sense? What are you doing?
Most people don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So you think you're doing it right, but if you really don't know, and you don't spend, years and years and years thinking about biomechanics, then it makes sense. But so most experts will say, look, we need to stretch. So then we'll go stretch, and we'll do let's say 15 minutes of stretching, and we'll stretch the hips, we'll stretch the knees, we'll stretch the ankles, we'll stretch all that stuff. And then we'll come back over and we'll say, okay, squat again. And a lot of times they go to the exact spot they were before they stretched.
But not all the time.
I'm going to say
every now and then.
I'm going to say most of the time.
Yeah.
Do you want to know why?
Yeah. Why?
Because
they didn't do anything.
It's a skill. They don't know how to squat.
Well, I mean, yes, it is a skill, but at the same time, they can easily be, let's say, have a limited range of motion in one of 5 different areas that will limit them to, will limit their range of motion. You can squat great. You have, unless you have a imbalance or some issue with your ankles, say. Yeah. Hamstrings are great, hip flexors are great, but your ankles have issue. You're not going to be able to squat all the way down. and then just go up the chain to, then you got good ankles, but you got bad knees. You got good knees and ankles, but you got bad hip flexors. It could be any one
Yeah.
of 4 or 5 things that will limit your range of motion.
But here's the interesting thing. So we do all the stretches for all that. We bring them back over. We say squat. Don't give them any other instruction. Just squat. Same thing, right? And they squat down and they go to the exact same spot. They're still inflexible, even though they did all that stretching. So what's happening here? Why didn't all the stretching work?
Well, first, if you have a squat that's, say, a 3/4 squat, where only, your butt is still well above your knees, then 15 minutes of stretching is not going to give you full range of motion. I don't care. It just won't. Maybe if you do 15 minutes worth of stretching for the, twice a day for the next 3 weeks, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And
let me give you another scenario. So now I get somebody, say I get the same person, and I tell them the same thing. So I tell them to squat. They squat down 3/4. And then instead of taking them over and stretching the shit out of them, I give them like 3 or 4 different cues on how to be able to squat a little bit better. So I give them 3 or 4 cues, just verbal, maybe a little touch cue here and there. And I say, okay, squat again. And 9 times out of 10, they'll go lower. Zero stretching.
That's what I was going to continue to say. Was the second thing is squatting, as in any full range of motion or deep motion of whatever body part, is a skill. It has to be taught.
Yes.
And once you have an idea of how to do what you're doing physically with your body, then you're better at it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So here's my rub is most people don't have flexibility issues. They have movement issues. They don't know how to move. They don't know how to control their joints. Their muscles get to a certain spot and their muscles are like, we're just going to lock this thing down because we don't know what the hell to do here. There's no coordination.
You said it right. You said it perfect. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. So you have to learn how to move. So the person that stops and takes you over and spends 2 hours stretching for months, but never teaches you how to squat, you're wasting your time. Your best time is spent moving. Now, there are times where there is a legitimate flexibility issue. And that would come into play, like if we give these cues and we do a lot of, we give them a lot of instruction on how to perform this movement. And if no matter what we're saying, and you can see them trying to do what we're asking them to do, and they still can't get into position, that's the signal for me where it's like, okay, now we have a legitimate restriction because they understand what I'm saying. I can see them trying to do it, but there's just something stuck. And that's where we can start to now really spend our time on the areas that are legitimately tight, where there's a legitimate restriction, where we can start to implement some things like massage and even more traditional style stretching. But usually I'll start with massage first.
Yeah, I agree that if there is a legitimate issue, then there are ways to work through it that will give benefit.
Yeah, but you can't coach through a legitimate issue.
Right. Yeah.
But I can coach through most things that people perceive as legitimate issues.
Yeah, I have a couple of legitimate issues.
Yeah.
That I know exactly what to do. I know exactly how to do it. I have stretched and pulled and stretched, and my body just won't. So I have I guess my body has like compensated, and I can still do. I can't do full range of motion, but I can still do.
Yeah.
And because I have those like built-in limitations, so to speak, or genetic or whatever, one, I don't go heavy, and two, I do what I can with, I do as best I can with what I have. It does not oh, I can't do that, so I'm not going to do it. Or I
Yeah.
can't do it that way, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. You've got an interesting situation. And I think if it's okay with you, I'll kind of share a little bit of kind of how I perceive it, and you can kind of
No,
elaborate
it's
on
not
it.
okay. I don't want people to know.
You want people to know about you?
Man, go ahead. I don't care.
Because one of the legitimate restrictions that we can see with people, and for you it's kind of easy to pick out because it's not that uncommon, right? It's the positioning of the spine, and what shows up for you as a restriction is in your shoulder joint, particularly your ball and socket joint. So you can't go into a full overhead position, and part of it is because of the shape of your spine. So if your bones are shaped a little bit differently than someone else's, it may restrict how you can express certain positions of your limbs, right? For you, you can't go all the way up overhead. Your spine, your thoracic spine, has a little bit more curvature to it, which means that the shoulder blades sit on the spine and are angled like this. For most folks, that shoulder blade can get completely vertical because the spine positions, spine and ribs are a little bit more vertical. But if you've got too much of a flexion there, it restricts your ability to be able to go up overhead with your arms. It's hard for me to do this on the camera.
Yeah, it looks backwards.
Yeah, but it's
But I
like
get it.
legitimately like a bony structure kind of thing. Like there is like your spine position is just a little bit different than some other folks. And that will change the mechanics of that arm. And no matter how much stretching we do, unless we reshape the spine, which we've played with a little bit, right? We've tried to get you into a little bit more extensionated spine.
And
But
I've had massage, I've had physical therapy, I've
yeah,
had dry needling, I've had a whole host of
yeah.
things,
But if your
and
spine
I just
structurally is like that,
yeah,
that's like
yeah,
how you're born. It's your DNA. You don't want to,
yeah.
it's unnatural for us to we can't change it. You know what I
We
mean?
can't change it.
It's not a
It
muscle
can't be
issue.
changed.
Yeah, it's not a muscle issue.
No,
It's just a
it's 100% skeletal, and it's
yeah,
beyond.
yes. Well said.
It, well, it's beyond control to change, and I mean, I guess if at all, they would have to break me so that in hopes that I would heal back the right way, and it's
Yeah.
not worth it.
No, no.
I'm an old man.
You're not an
No,
old man,
no.
but no, you're not old.
Well, I'm a older gentleman. How's that?
Yeah. But it's funny how like you can find ways around that stuff, right? Like there are different, you just have to just tweak things a little, train just a little bit differently, right? But it's amazing how far you've come because you can still do overhead stuff, you can still do pull-ups, you're a little more
Oh
susceptible to
yeah,
some shoulder injuries if you're not careful, but you've really
yeah.
done well.
Well, it took me a long time to realize my issues, and
Yeah.
and then it took me even longer to come to grips with them. And it's like, okay, I just can't do a 200-pound snatch.
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna do that.
Yeah.
But I got a 120, maybe a 130-pound snatch. I got that.
Yeah.
Um, I can do probably 10, 11 strict pull-ups.
Yeah, dude,
But
you're amazing.
I
You're
can't do
amazing.
a kipping. I can't do a kipping pull-up.
Yeah.
And if I can only do maybe two or three in a row,
Yeah.
um, because it just hurts. It
Yeah.
hurts me.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Um,
Yeah.
I have a decent push press. I'm maybe 120, 130-pound push press if I trained more with it. Right now, my push press is 100 pounds, and I do that pretty easy.
Yeah.
So I have most of the overhead stuff. I just don't have it real heavy.
Yeah.
And if I guess I could loosely say, if I had a point in my body that would be weaker, not weak, but weaker, would be my shoulders and shoulder girdle and my overhead stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And it's just how
it's
you
okay.
how you've been built. It's like me being pissed off because I'm not 6'1" and 250 pounds. Like it's not who I am, you know?
Well, me, I've come to learn that I've come to be okay with 6'1", 175 pounds. And
Yeah.
I have to say it like this. Wait. I have to say it like this. 6'1", 175 pounds, 10% body fat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's not genetic. I
Yeah.
worked for that.
And how old are you? 78?
69. I'll be 74 in about 3 months.
That's awesome.
No, man, I'm actually 63.
I know.
I was 63 in November.
Yeah. So anyway,
But
so going back to like,
I
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say that this is not genetic. I put in work to get here.
Yeah.
A lot of work. Like I said, I went out to my gym today and I was sore, but I got to work out anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. It's who you are. It's part of your life. It's awesome.
Oh, here you go. It's a discipline.
It's a discipline. That's right. Yeah. The habit or the discipline. I don't know. But going back to flexibility, like don't waste a whole bunch of time doing a bunch of stretching, because stretching does not carry over to movement. You have to move. You got to learn how to move.
You have to move.
Yeah. And figure out, like, find someone who can help you with movements, because that's the key. Otherwise, you're going to waste a whole bunch of time worrying about shit that might not even be broken. And you're going to be spending a bunch of time just because you don't know how to do something. Here's another great example, like runners, for example. Like runners are people who, I've worked with so many runners and triathletes and stuff over the years. And one of their biggest complaints is always like, my hips are so tight, my knees are so tight. And there is some truth to that. But if you think about someone who goes out and pounds the pavement, someone who goes and runs a lot, what is the range of motion of their hips and knees? We'll just say hips and knees. What are the range of motion requirements of the hips and knees when you're running? Is it a large requirement of range of motion, or is it a relatively small requirement of range of motion?
Depending on sprint runners or distance runners,
Either one.
I would say a sprint runner would probably need a lot more range of motion, because they have to move a short distance in a short amount of time. Where a distance runner, long distance, long amount of time, they don't have to have a full stride. If they have a 3/4 stride, 2/3 stride, they can still cover a lot of ground in a longer period of time.
Yeah. And let's just, to make it simple, like most 40-year-old guys are not out sprinting. Some are, but most of them are like using distance running to manage weight, or they just like running, right? So just mental stuff, right? So let's just use distance running as an example. What are the range of motion requirements for the hip and the knee in a distance runner?
I would say not more than 2/3 of full range.
Yeah, and I think even 2/3 is given a lot.
Yeah, that's what I said. Not more than, maybe half.
Yeah,
of full range.
I have fun with.
They're not running for any real reason. They're just running.
Yeah. So as soon as I have fun with runners, because a lot of runners come to me because they want to get stronger. So they come in and I'll just have them air squat, just like we talked about. Like, here, I want you to squat, and they'll get down to 1/3 of that range of motion. The range of motion that they use in their running, they'll squat down and they'll kind of get stuck there, right? And they don't, like, their nervous system, their neuromuscular system is like, I don't even know what to do. And they'll say, like, I'm so tight. I can't squat. Like, I'm just so tight. And I'm like, no kid, when was the last time you like squatted down? Well, to sit in the chair, which is actually a little bit different. You do need the range of motion to sit in the chair. But when you have to control that range of motion, when you have to drive the joints and be able to control, it's not just a crash down into a couch or a crash down into a chair. When you got to control that range of motion, your nervous system, your muscles are like, they don't even know what to do. So if we just coach them a little bit, we can get them squatting full range of motion, if they don't have any serious orthopedic issues, within a week, with zero stretching.
Yeah, you teach them to do it, as opposed to
zero stretching.
You teach them how to do what they need, how to do what they want their body to do. Yeah. You want range of motion? Practice movements. Yeah, it's for a, let's say, a 50+ person, even a 60+ person that you want to get a full squat and they don't know how to do it, how I would start them is, sit in the chair, and rather than back up to the chair and just crash down into it because the chair is going to catch you, first go to sit in the chair first without the use of your hands. Don't reach back and find the chair and then hold the chair and sit down. First, just go back up to the chair and hold your arms in front of you and control your downward motion to sit in the chair. And then when you stand up, control, not push off with your hands, control yourself standing. Start there. And then just slowly get to the point where you can not have the chair there and control your motions down. And then comes, open your hips a little, bend your ankles a little more. It's not something that's, like you said, you could have them sit squatting in a week. It's
a lot of times
relatively
faster.
simple.
Yeah.
In a few days.
Yeah. Sometimes in a half an hour.
Well, depends on where they're starting from.
Yes,
but
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Definitely a couple of days. You should be able to improve their squat, improve their range of motion in a couple of days. Here's something. I'm just thinking of this. How is it? Two things. First, how is it that I know this stuff? Don't answer. And second, or B, why is it that you think I do? Okay, you can answer.
I guess I don't really, how do you know? I don't know. What is the question? How do you know this? Don't you practice this stuff every day?
How do I know it? First, how do I know this stuff?
Aren't you living the life? Are you kind of like in the trenches every freaking day?
I wouldn't say every day, but 3 or 4 days a week. Well, today I did, let me see. No, I did jumping jacks, kettlebells, sit-ups, and I think lunges. And I did 40 of each.
And deadlifts and hang cleans.
No, I did 120 jumping jacks. And then that was just my warm-up. I did 40 of each of the 120 and 40, 40, 40. And then I took a short break. And then I did deadlifts and hang cleans. So in kind of answer to your question, not every day, but I'm out there often.
Yeah. And you're moving your body a lot during the day, because it's not like you're not the guy sitting on your ass all day. Like, point being is like you're out doing, you're out moving. You live a movement-based life. I call it the athlete life, right? So
I'm a carpenter. I'm a builder. If I don't move, shit don't get built.
Yeah, you got to move. Yeah. So you kind of get it, right? So people that sit on their butt, and here's kind of the thing too. I think we tend to really lean into stretching and massage. And again, there's a time and a place for those things. But if I'm someone who's sitting on my ass all day and I'm like, you know what, I got to start getting in shape. And you're like, but I'm so tight, I'm just going to start with some stretching first. And then you spend a whole bunch of time stretching, because stretching is way easier than actually moving, because moving requires like effort. Stretching is like, you get to kind of relax and kind of like swing your leg over and lay on your back. But look, it's not going to give you any benefit unless you practice your movements and your positions, and really, what is movement? Movement is just a series of positions, right? That we go from one position to the next position to the next position in sort of a beautiful way, right? But movements are just a series of positions. And we have to learn those things and practice those things. And it's hard sometimes, but that's where you get flexible. That's where you move well. It's just coordination. It's a nervous system issue more than a soft tissue issue. Like, we think like there's glue in our muscles. Most of the time, that's not the case. Unless you had some old injury in there, there's probably not scar tissue in there. You just don't know how to drive it. You don't know how to drive the car.
My my thing is that to a greater degree, I learned from someone that actually really knows this stuff. Oh, that was you.
This guy?
And that was you.
Yeah.
And I learned in a environment where there was there was a large group of high level, well, there was a lot of people that were better at it than me. So I wanted to learn as much as I can, as well as I could, so that not that I could compete, but so that I could do it as well. I don't have to be as strong or as fast. I just want to be able to do it like and that is kind of how I'm just thinking now, how I know what I know, kind of, and then I do it all the time.
Yeah. You
I
get
this is
immersed
this
in
is
it.
a real discipline for me. I put my shoes on today, and then I took them off, and then I put them back on and said, "No, I'm going outside. I'm going because my gym is outside in my cave." I said,
Yeah.
"No, I'm going to my cave," and I put my shoes back on, and I went back outside.
So
And I went outside, and
putting your shoes on and off is not a big struggle for you.
no,
No.
no,
Yeah.
no.
For some guys that
The
can be a challenge. I've had people tell me like, I just want to be able to reach my freaking shoes. Like I have a hard time putting my socks on in the morning.
no, no, no. I no. There are the only physical struggle that I actually do have is when I put my right hand behind my back, I can
Yeah.
only reach so far.
Yeah.
And my left hand, I can actually reach further. But that's okay. I can still wash my back,
Yeah.
in the shower.
Yeah. And again, it's like we have
Not
to
a big
come up
deal.
with the definition of like what is normal range of motion. We have to come up with what are the normal movements that we need to be able to do in our life. It's not
Yeah.
what is, it's not about keeping your legs straight and touching the floor. That's not what I'm concerned with about your hamstrings. Just like I'm not concerned with you reaching your arm behind your head and touching the behind your back and touching the back of your head. Where do you see that in everyday life? Maybe when you're washing your back, but it's kind of it's an unnatural. We don't have to reach all the way up. We don't have to do the splits to live a really active life.
Yeah. And active is
And highly functioning. Like we don't to have a high performance body that can do pretty much all the tasks that may come up unknown and unknowable in our everyday life. It should be a little bit more specific.
I like to think of myself as I can do anything physically that comes before me with very few limitations outside of, no, I'm not going to, lift the Volkswagen off the child. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go get 3 more guys and the 4 of us will lift it. But anything, there's very little, even, stretching, reaching, pulling, pushing, jumping, climbing. And it's only because to keep on topic, on subject, I am pretty flexible because I move all the time. I am relatively strong because I move all the time.
And
And
you lift stuff.
Yeah, I lift stuff too.
Because to get strong, you got to lift stuff. And we had a whole podcast on like, what does it mean to be strong? You gotta be able to pick stuff up.
Yeah, you got to be able to lift, push, pull. But I can do pretty much anything physical that comes before me. Within reason. There's very little that I would not. And given any situation, I would be the one to say, stand back, I got this. I would step forward.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, depending on what it is, I wouldn't hesitate. Stand back, I got this.
Yeah.
You want to help? Come on, but I got this.
Of course. Yeah. There's a confidence that comes with taking great care of yourself, physically. There's a confidence to it. A swagger. I call it the athlete swagger. Like there's a swagger to it. You know, you can see them walking on the road. Like you can see like that guy's got it. Like that girl's got it. There's just a different kind of energy to that kind of person that just moves well. You can see it in their walk. You can see it in their gait. They look different. Their hands positions are different. Their shoulders are different. Their head position is different. There's a different energy and a different shape to those people.
I was told a couple weeks ago, this guy met some contractor that wanted to hire me to do some stuff. And somehow I asked him about himself, and he said that he went to university on a football scholarship and this and that. And I said, oh, so you're used to working out? He's like, well, I don't work out anymore. And I'm like, why not? And he's like, well, I got married and had kids. I'm like, yeah, okay, but why not?
It's his wife and kids' fault.
Well, gotta be somebody's fault, can't be his. But anyway, I said, well, I like to work out, and I kind of work out all the time. And he looked me right in my face and said, yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I said to him, yeah, right. He said, no, I can tell. He said, when you walked from the sidewalk up to here, he said, I can tell just that you worked out just by the way you walked across the grass.
Yeah.
I literally brushed him off. Like, yeah, right, whatever. What about those 2x4s that's going to go up here? And we kept talking.
Let me give you
to hear what you just said.
Let me give you, because I'm always looking at this. I can't not see it. I can't unsee this. So anytime I see someone, there's three things I generally look at to determine if someone has that kind of athletic swagger. There's three things. I look at their feet, and if their feet are angled outward, that's a sign of weak feet, especially if their feet are angled out and the arches are collapsed. Like if the insides of their soles of their shoes are just sort of crushed and their feet are outward, that's sign number one that they're not athletic. If their toes are straight forward and the soles of their shoes are good, they're not unevenly, smashed, that's number one. Number two is the positioning of their hands. So when you see them walking, where is the palm of their hand facing? Is it facing behind them, or is it facing their hips or towards the middle of the body? If they're facing behind, that's a no-go, because that means they likely sit all day and have this
rounded shoulder thing.
Yeah, even if they're not rounded, their shoulder joints have been trained to be internally rotated because they spend all their time sitting on a computer, on their phone or whatever, but that's an internally rotated position. They don't even know they're doing it, but I see it. And then the other thing that I look at is their shoulder blades. So in between their shoulder blades, I look at where their shirt kind of lies. If there's shoulder blades and the shirt has like a little bit of it's not touching any skin between the shoulder blades, that means they've got a strong back. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting.
So like there's like a gap there in you see that?
Yeah, kind of.
As opposed to this.
Oh, yeah.
If you see that little bit of see that crease between the shoulder blades?
Yeah.
You want that. That means you got a strong shoulder girdle. But if that's all flattened out, if it's all like flat, it means your shoulder blades are probably protracted a little bit, which again, all ties into that internally rotated position. So feet, hands, shoulder blades, or your back, shoulder blades back.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there you go. So now everybody who's listening to this can go out and they can analyze and see how many people walk around with their hands behind them, their palms facing behind them, feet turned out, a lot of times arches collapsed, and notice like the shirt is almost like stretched over the upper back. There's no crease there at the spine.
Interesting.
There's no canyon. We want a canyon there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of stuff for my back. I am very conscious about, I guess, my body. I want to be strong all over. You know, you use the, how do you call it? The one muscle?
The one muscle method.
Yeah. I don't
Toenails to
necessarily,
fingernails.
I don't necessarily prescribe to that. I am conscious and aware of it, but I'm not, you know, 100% on board with that. I'm maybe 75, 80%. But at the same time, I understand that the body's a whole lot of moving parts and they all have to be worked. Be it, I try not to do anything to isolate any muscle. I try to do muscle groups whenever I do workouts. You know, I almost never do a bicep curl. You know, why? There are so many other things that I can do that work the biceps and the triceps and the shoulders and the, on and on. So why isolate any one muscle? It's almost, it's not, but it's almost counterproductive for the sake of time.
Yeah, it's very inefficient, and
Yeah.
there's even in the world of human performance, because again, I'm interested in human performance. It could be detrimental to break the body up like that.
Yeah. Like I said, to me, it's counterproductive in the sense of time. You know, why would I spend an hour working on my biceps when I can do a whole, let me think of what exercise works the biceps and the triceps and the shoulders and the delts all at once.
Yeah.
Maybe a clean or a push-up.
Yeah. Or just pair two things together, two movements, do some push-ups and pull-ups. Like, yeah.
Push-ups and pull-ups. Yeah.
Yeah. The more you can integrate the system together, the more you train the one giant muscle, the more that carries into human performance, and human performance is what we need in real life.
Yeah. So I've just tried to be more aware of moving my body as opposed to moving a body part.
Yeah.
In my
100%.
workouts.
And I want to hit on one more thing that's really important on this flexibility thing. I want to hit one more thing, one more mistake that I see everybody do. And it's
not me. You don't see me do it.
Not really.
I'm just kidding. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't think so, because we talked about it already, because you talked about your injury. So you didn't mention it. If you did it, you didn't mention it.
Okay. What is it?
So when someone gets hurt, like let's just use your example, right? So you did something at work and your back kind of tweaked a little bit and you're like, what the heck is that, right? You got this pain in your back. So what do most people do when they feel a tweak somewhere? Let's just say in your back. What do most people do?
Take a pill.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. They stretch.
Well, they stretch. Yeah.
I gotta stretch that. I gotta stretch it. Right. So
stretch it out.
So I got this part of my muscle that for whatever reason, instead of like functioning normally where it contracts and relaxes, like that's how we create movement, right? The nervous system drives this muscle, right? So when it gets injured, it locks down, right? A section of that muscle is like, it's not going to let go. So it's like, it's just locked in, right? And that's that pain that you're feeling. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to stretch this thing. I'm going to make it better. So this thing's already overactive, right? And all of a sudden, I'm going to try really hard to pull it apart. What am I doing to the nervous system?
Telling it to stay on.
Yeah. So the nerves are like, oh, this is what you want to do, huh? You want to try to break me? So there's resistance. So that can actually start to clamp down even more. And it starts to turn on some of the other friends around it. Remember, there's nerves with fingers. So now all of a sudden, 3 more nerves turn on. Now, instead of having just one section locked down, and it's kind of the theory is, and this is the hypothesis around this, is for some reason that muscle is trying to protect something, right? So it like clamps things down to protect a joint from getting hurt, right? So it's supposedly, this is again a hypothesis, but it's to protect something. So if we try to pull that thing apart, what is your nervous system going to do?
Protect more.
Locks it down more. So we want to send
Yeah.
a different kind of message. We want to send a relax message, not a stretch message. So if you tweak a muscle, we want it to relax. We want to shut it off. We want the nervous system to go, oh, I don't have to be locked down. I can let go. We're good. We're good. We're good. And then you kind of practice some movements, some light movements. You're not lifting weights so much, but you just practice some light movements. You get that thing moving again. And then things start firing normally again. Like you can go back to a normal function, and that's where the pain goes away, like magically.
Well, in regards to that, no, I did not feel like I needed to stretch my back out in hopes that it would get better.
Yeah, but that's what most people do. That's what a lot of people do. I did
use the foam roller, which kind of massaged it a little.
Yeah,
then
it is massage.
I used the
100%.
I did the lacrosse ball, which got a little, like you said, we agreed, surgical on that massage.
Yeah.
And when I stood up and it felt so much better, it was like, okay, now I can move again.
Yeah. Now it starts moving again. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I did not. I don't think that when I get hurt, and I don't get hurt too often, but when I do, pull a muscle or strain whatever, my first instinct is not for those reasons, but my first instinct is generally not to, oh, I got to stretch.
Yeah.
My first instinct, if at all, would be, where's my roller?
Yeah, where's my lacrosse ball? Yeah, I got one later on here too.
My ball and my roller, and let me roll around and make it feel better.
Yeah. So important for anybody listening. If you get injured, and we got to be, we got to make sure. I'm talking about like a muscle tweak, right? When a muscle just like locks down, there is, if you have like legitimate tissue damage, like if you get smashed in the thigh with a baseball bat or a baseball, there's going to be tissue damage there, and a whole bunch of scar tissue could lay down in there. And that's where massage is still helpful, but there might even be some benefit to doing some stretching to kind of remodel that scar tissue. So there's a time and a place for these different tools, but we just got to make sure we're using the right tools for the right jobs. Most of the time, we don't have to spend a lot of time stretching. Learn how to move. If you get a tweak, get the lacrosse ball or the foam roller, whatever it is that you're working on, and get some help. If you need help, get help, because there's other therapies you can use too.
And if by some chance you don't have a lacrosse ball, a tennis ball will work.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot softer, and because have no doubt, the lacrosse ball hurts. It is no joke. You lay your whole body weight on that ball in that one little spot,
it'll make you cry.
It'll bring tears to your eyes.
Yeah, especially if you got a really jacked up spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've never done it, take the lacrosse ball and go around the inside of the shoulder blade, where the shoulder blade, like spend 10 minutes there and see how you feel. You'd be shocked. But then when you stand up, it's like, hey,
it will shock you.
Shoulder blade starts moving again. Like it starts actually sliding around a little bit better. The whole shoulder girdle actually just works better. So it's crazy. 10 minutes.
So it's therapeutic, but it's you have to learn how to regulate your body weight on it.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm to a point where I put my whole weight on it.
Yeah.
I'm okay just leaning in. Yeah. I just lean into it.
Yeah.
Grind myself, because I know it's going to make me feel better.
Yeah. And the truth is, like, if you don't have a lot of issues, like if you stay up on your massage, if you stay up on that, it keeps the tissues supple, and a supple tissue is not that painful.
No,
like when you get a massage, they find the spots that are locked down, and what do? They spend time there, and it hurts. But if you can stay on top of that stuff and never allow those areas to lock down, you don't have to, it doesn't hurt as bad. Somebody who's never really rolled before, has never had a massage, it can be the most painful experience ever. For you and I, it's like, well, we do it all the time. So
yeah,
it's not as bad.
No, not at all.
unless you really mess something
IT
up.
physical.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like if you go swimming, you're going to get wet.
Yeah.
You do this, you live this lifestyle as, going to train and work out and lift and pull and heavy stuff. You're gonna pull a muscle or strain a tendon or something. It's going to happen, not if, but when.
Yeah.
So,
but minimize it by moving
understand
well.
that, yeah, it's part of the process to good movement.
Yeah. We had a client just a couple of days ago. He's like, something's wrong with my knee. Something's wrong with my knee. And I've been seeing his movements. So I know his movements are very good. So I'm like, okay, tell me a little bit more. And he's like, it's like hurting a little bit right here. And I'm like, I had him squat and stuff and just kind of look at it. And I'm like, well, I think it's probably just a little tweak. And these little tweaks come up once in a while. Sometimes they're kind of random and kind of weird, but I don't know what happened exactly. It doesn't seem like there's anything really wrong. Let's give it a day and see how it is. And then he did some like IT band rolling and some hip rolling with his lacrosse ball. Next day, totally fine, like totally gone. It's funny, like every once in a while, things just like randomly kind of show up, but those things tend to go away really fast, especially if you do the right stuff. If he would have just started stretching a bunch of shit, he could have made it worse. And his recovery time could have been longer and it could have become a chronic problem because the muscles never let go. But because it was like, it's a little tweak.
Yeah, same kind of thing with me.
Yeah.
If I would have done something wrong today, I could have aggravated it, made it worse, made the recovery longer. I would have had to sit my ass on the couch or at least in a hard chair for the next week because I aggravated it, made it worse. But I would like to think that I have enough knowledge and experience to, this is what I need to do, and let me go and grind myself and do it. And then don't lift too heavy and keep moving, so to speak.
And the thing is, like, that all just changed. Like the stretching thing was what you did and what we were taught 15 years ago. Yeah. And it's still kind of alive and well in some circles. Like it's kind of like, I'm like, there's such a better way. Like, it's still alive and well.
Yeah.
Old things die hard. So it's good to find somebody that kind of knows.
I like to say, yeah, I used to do it like that. And then I grew up.
Yeah. So there you go. There's our flexibility topic for today. Thank you I get kind of passionate about that one because there's just so much bad information around flexibility. It's so bad. And a lot of it is like more is better. Everybody's chasing more flexibility. And I'm like, dude, you can actually make things worse if you try to overstretch. Let me just give you an example. If I try to do the splits every single day, like let's say my goal is to do the splits. So I'm going to try to get myself in the splits every single day. Not all of us are designed to be able to do the splits. What will happen for most of us is once you get to the end range, like if I train the muscles to elongate as far as they possibly can, right? There is another thing that could limit me from getting into the split. So let's say it's no longer the muscles. What is the next level of support for a joint that would need to have to stretch in order for me to get into the splits?
Tendons.
Close. Ligaments.
Oh, ligaments, right? Bone to bone, ligaments.
Yeah. So you've got like I call it like the safety net. If the muscles fail, the ligaments are there, and they're not muscles. They're just like they're like a band of, they're like cables. They don't contract and relax. They're just like cables. So they're slack most of the time. And if my muscles, like let's say I tear a muscle or whatever, and so the joint doesn't completely blow up, the ligaments get tight and hold the joint together, right? So now I've got to start stretching my ligaments. The problem with stretching a ligament is if you stretch a ligament, there's no elasticity. It doesn't go back.
Right.
It's why if you roll your ankle really bad, you're more susceptible to rolling it over and over again because that ligament is no longer that same length. Instead of it being an inch, you could have stretched it out to 1.5 inches. Now all of a sudden that safety mechanism is broken. The safety net is broken. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
So
some things we're just not meant to do.
more is not better. If you're stretching ligaments, you're creating instability in your joints, and it can hurt you. It can be bad for you.
Yeah. And bad is not good.
More is not better.
No.
Yeah.
Well, more stretching is not better. More strength,
Yeah.
more endurance,
Always
more, stamina.
Yeah. Nobody ever said I'm too strong.
No.
I'm too
No.
strong.
I mean, no.
No.
Strong enough? Yeah. Too strong? Not yet.
Right. Yeah. I got too much endurance.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. I got too much stamina. Yeah. No, nobody ever says that.
Yeah. No.
All right.
But
on that
there
note,
is the end result of our back and forth on flexibility.
yeah.
Be
Thank
as
you for
flexible
obliging
as
me.
you can without damaging yourself.
Yeah. And use the right tool for the job. Stretching is not the answer for as much as we might think.
A lot.
Yeah, for a lot. Right. Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
All right.
Let's wrap this up, and we'll do this again soon.
Let's.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.